Well, today we're going to be doing a review on one of the most unique optics I've ever had on the channel. And that optic is the Viridian MDS35. Let's check it out. Alright, we're over on the other bench, and we are going to go over all the specs and features of the MDS35. Now, I'm going to bring a picture up on the screen and show you everything that comes in the box, and you can pause it and check it out. Now, what makes this optic so unique over a lot of the other red dots and green dots that I test on this channel is technically it doesn't have a dot. It's got what they call a BRC reticle. And I'm going to bring a picture of this reticle up on the screen. And if you're going to put this on a regular AR-15 chambered in 5.56, that top dot that you see, once you get it zeroed, is good for 50 to 200 yards. The dot right below that is 15 yards. And the dot below that is 7 yards. And to the left and right of your dots, you can see the chevrons. And if you want to stretch that distance out even further, it shows you where to use the dots at longer range. Now, this optic has a massive window on it. The lens on this is 36 by 36 millimeters. And I've got the optic turned on right now. I know you're not going to really be able to see the detail in the reticle, but I've got it turned all the way up, and this thing is extremely bright. And it looks pretty clean. I'm getting just a slight starbursting on the top two dots, and that's not a fault of the optic, it's just because I have astigmatism, but I see green a lot better than I do red, and I believe once I get this out to the range, a lot of that starbursting will go away. Now, as far as the specs go on this has an overall length of 3 inches, it is 1.6 inches wide, and it is 2.7 inches tall. And this thing's got a little bit of weight to it. It weighs in at 7.8 ounces. Now, the MDS35 does have a top-load battery. You can take a flathead screwdriver or even a coin, take off the battery compartment door, and underneath that is your CR2032 battery. And this does have a 30,000 hour battery life, but that's obviously going to be on the lowest setting. And this has 10 brightness settings. You've got 8 daytime settings and 2 NV. The housing on this is machined out of 6061 aluminum, and it does have a hard coat anodized finish. Now, this optic will mount to any 1913 rail. I do have these tightened down right now, but they are spring-loaded. You do have 2 bolts going across here that will work as your recoil lugs. And if this footprint looks a little familiar, that is because it uses the Aimpoint T2 footprint, which is pretty cool because, well, if you want a shorter riser or a taller riser, the T2 footprint is a very common footprint, so getting aftermarket risers for this should be no issue. And this mount is a 1.5 inch absolute co-witness mount. Now, this does have an IPX6 water resistance rating. It does have a multi-coated lens, and it does have unlimited eye relief. Now, your brightness level adjustment buttons are here on this side. You got a big plus here and a minus here. And one thing that I'm already liking on this, as you can tell, these buttons are recessed in. You do have a bezel around here. To turn the optic on, you're going to hit the plus button, and to shut the optic off, you are going to hold the minus button. It takes about 3 seconds, and it will shut off. Now this optic does have shake awake. It will shut itself off after 2 minutes of sitting still, and as soon as you tap the optic or grab whatever it's mounted on, it will turn back on, and we will be testing that later on in the video. Now one thing I like to do in every optic review video is test the windage and elevation to see how tactile and audible the clicks are. Your elevation is here on the top of the optic. You've got a U with the arrow pointing that direction. And then above that, it says 1 click equals 1 MOA. So let's test the elevation first. Oh, wow. Very tactile. Very audible. Yeah, no problem hearing that. Nice positive stop between each click. Now we're going to move on to the windage. You've got your R with your arrow pointing that way. Let's see how this one goes. Nice. Really nice. Nice clicks. And one other thing that I like that they're doing here is they're using a Torx wrench. I'm starting to notice a lot of these new optics are going this route instead of using a flathead. And the last thing I want to go over, this does come with Viridian's lifetime warranty. So the gun that I decided to mount this MDS35 on is the brand new Derya RAN Ironwolf. This optic and this gun came into the channel right around the same time. I already knew I wanted to put a big window optic on this lever action, so this was the perfect combo for what I was looking for. Now the first thing I noticed when I got out to the range was how bright this green reticle is. I have very little experience with Viridian optics, but this reticle, definitely impressive. Now here in the studio, when I've got this turned all the way up, I do get just a little bit of starbursting. But once I got it outdoors and got it out to the range, that pretty much was gone. I get just the slightest starbursting on the very bottom dot on this reticle, and that's it. Now getting this optic sighted in, it was a piece of cake. Since I was shooting in the competition bays, I just put a 25-yard zero on that top dot. It only took 3 or 4 shots 38 special, and I had that reticle right where I wanted it. So now that we've talked about how nice the reticle is on this optic, let's talk about the glass and the window size on this optic. As you saw in the unboxing portion of this thing has got a massive window on it. And when I was transitioning from the USPSA to the steel targets and back and forth, it's super easy to make those transitions when you got a window this big on an optic. The other thing that's quite impressive on this is the glass. The glass is just crystal clear. Now, since this was a brand new optic on a brand new rifle, I wanted to shoot quite a few rounds through it before I did my 10-shot groups. And I was really happy with the groups that I was getting out of this. They were shooting a little bit low and to the right, and I probably should have made an adjustment on this optic so I was actually getting everything in the bullseye. But I was shooting this rifle at different distances, so I was kind of adjusting the reticle throughout the day while I was reviewing this rifle. Now, after I shot the first 2 10-shot groups, I wanted to beat this optic up a little bit. Now, obviously, I can't beat this optic off the tailgate of my truck like I do when I'm doing pistol optic reviews. So I went ahead and put this in my Sunway Photo tripod, locked it down, and I got my Real Avid hammer out of my range bag, and I just started beating on the top of the optic, on the sides of it, and then I went back to shoot 2 more 10-shot groups to make sure this optic did not lose 0, and as you can see, it never lost 0.
Nice.
Now, because I was doing a review on this optic, and I was doing a review on this rifle, I racked up a little over 500 rounds on this rifle with this optic on it over the course of 2 days. And when I got home, I wanted to test the shake awake on this. I think it's a better test to test the shake awake after the abuse at the range and a higher round count. And as you can see, the shake awake is working perfect on this. And it does shut off at exactly 2 minutes, and as soon as you touch it or grab whatever this is mounted on, it will turn right back on. Now, I'm not going to drag this video out super long, because if you want to see this optic in more action, you can go check out my first shots video with the Derya RAN Ironwolf. But I do want to hit the pros and cons with this optic. The first con with this optic, and this is going to be a con for a lot of people, this optic is not cheap. If you get on the Viridian website, this is going for $4.99. Now, do I think it's worth this price? I'm going to let you guys make that conclusion when we get into all the pros with this optic. My second con with this optic is I really wish it had a multi-reticle. The reticle on this is super cool, especially if you're going to put this on an AR-15 chambered in 5.56. You get it zeroed at 50 yards, and then you have those 3 different dots for all your different distances. I think that is awesome that they did that. But I would also like the ability to shut that off and just use a green dot. Now, after I got the first day out of the way with this optic, I didn't even really notice it. I just focused on that very top dot, and that's what I used, and the optic worked great for me. So now let's get into the pros. We're just going to start right here at the top. Top load battery. Got a nice big slot there. You can use a flathead screwdriver, a coin, whatever it takes to get that door off and access the battery. I love that. The windage and elevation adjustments on this optic are awesome. I love the fact that they did not use a flathead screwdriver like a lot of optics do. This is the 3rd or 4th optic now that I've had on the channel that is using a torque style bit to adjust the windage and elevation, and I really like that. Now, I know some people are going to complain about it. Well, everybody's got a flathead screwdriver. Well, I carry tools with me in my range bag to the range. I've always got an assortment of Torx bits. It's just so much easier to make your windage and elevation adjustments with a Torx over a flathead screwdriver. My next pro with this is I just like the way this optic looks. I've heard some people say they think it's ugly, they don't like it. I really like the way it looks. I think the front of this is super cool. And speaking of the front of it, you got a lot of protection around the glass. That glass sits back in there pretty deep into that housing. You're really not going to have to worry about the glass getting busted on this. I think they did a really nice job on the design on the front. Hell, I think they did a great job on the design of this optic, period. My biggest pro with this optic is that big window. But one thing I noticed with this, and I've been doing a lot of reviews here lately on these bigger optic windows, I'm not getting any kind of glare with this. And as you can see, I had a couple really nice, bright, sunny days out doing a review on this, which is really weird for Ohio to have 2 days in a row like that. But I was not getting that glare. A lot of times when you got a big massive window on an optic like this, you can get this glare across there, and it can be quite annoying for some people. But for some reason, even with this massive window, I wasn't getting that with this. Now maybe it has something to do with the way they designed the front of the housing. I don't know, but they did a really nice job on that. The next pro with this, it seems to be pretty rugged. It survived me smacking it around with the hammer, and it survived over 500 rounds on this Derya, and 150 of those 500 rounds were 357 Magnum, and it never got loose. It never got loose during the hammer test. It just seems to be a pretty rugged optic. So the question is, do I recommend this optic? And I'm going to say yes. Is it worth $4.99? We're just going to have to see. I am going to be doing a 1,000 round review on this gun because I'm having an absolute blast taking this to the range and shooting it, and this optic's going to stay on here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.